The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room ever built by any species. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed inside it. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform, and today every single seat was filled. Ambassador Park Yun-ho stood on that central platform. He was a small man compared to most of the aliens watching him. The Velith delegates towered 3 meters tall with their scaled bodies and 4 arms. The Koran representatives floated in gravity bubbles, their jellyfish-like forms pulsing with soft light. The Makari sat in their mechanical suits, their insect bodies clicking with impatience. Yun-ho felt their eyes on him. Some looked bored. Others looked annoyed. A few looked at him with open disgust. Humans had only joined the council 12 years ago. They were still considered children in a galaxy full of ancient civilizations. Honored members of the Galactic Council. Yun-ho began. His voice was calm and steady. I come before you today with evidence of a terrible crime. He touched the device on his wrist. A holographic display appeared above him, showing a planet covered in green forests and blue oceans. It was beautiful. This is New Haven, Yun-ho said. 6 months ago, it was home to 2 million human colonists. Families, children, farmers, and teachers and doctors. He pressed another button. The image changed. The beautiful planet was now covered in fire and smoke. Cities lay in ruins. The oceans had turned black. 3 unknown ships entered the system and released a biological weapon. The colonists died within hours. All 2 million of them. Murmurs spread through the Great Hall. Yun-ho waited for them to quiet down. We found one of the ships, he continued. It had crashed on the planet's moon. Our investigators spent months examining it. They found something interesting. The hologram changed again. It showed a piece of metal with strange writing on it. This is Velith script, Yun-ho said. The ships were built in Velith shipyards. The biological weapon was created in Velith laboratories. The attack on New Haven was carried out by the Velith Empire. Asked, the hall exploded with noise. The Velith delegates rose from their seats, their scales turning red with anger. High Counselor Vethnor, the leader of the Velith delegation, pointed one of his forearms at Yun-ho. This is an outrage, Vethnor shouted. The human speaks lies. The Velith Empire would never attack innocent colonists. Yun-ho did not raise his voice. I have more evidence. Communication records showing Velith military commanders discussing the attack. Financial records showing payments to the ship crews. Medical records proving the biological weapon matches samples from Velith research facilities. He uploaded all the files to the Council's public database. Every delegate could see them now. I demand that the Council investigate these crimes, Yun-ho said. I demand justice for the 2 million humans who died on New Haven. The hall fell silent. Everyone looked at High Arbiter Zelmoth, the ancient Koran who led the Council. Zelmoth's jellyfish body pulsed slowly as she considered the evidence. The evidence is concerning, Zelmoth said finally. However, the Velith Empire has been a member of this council for 3,000 years. They have always been honorable allies. With respect, High Arbiter, Yun-ho said, honor does not change the facts. The evidence clearly shows. The evidence shows nothing, Vethnor interrupted. Anyone could have built ships in Velith style. Anyone could have faked those communication records. The humans are trying to damage our reputation. Several other delegates nodded in agreement. The Makari ambassador clicked his approval. The Thorian delegation, who had strong trade agreements with the Velith, spoke in support of their allies. Yun-ho watched this happen. He watched ancient species defend the murderers of 2 million innocent people. He watched them dismiss clear evidence because it was inconvenient. He watched them protect their political allies, instead of seeking justice. High Arbiter, Yun-ho said, I ask for a formal vote. Will the Council investigate the Velith Empire for the attack on New Haven? Zelmoth looked uncomfortable. She looked at the Velith delegates. Then, at the other powerful species, who supported them. Finally, she looked at Yun-ho. We will vote, she announced. The voting took only a few minutes. Each delegation pressed their buttons. The results appeared on the main display. For investigation, 47 votes. Against investigation, 156 votes. Abstaining, 89 votes. The motion had failed. There would be no investigation. There would be no justice. Yunho stared at the numbers. He had expected this outcome, but seeing it still hurt. 2 million dead humans meant nothing to this council. Human lives were worth less than political relationships. The motion has failed, Zelmoth announced. The council sees no reason to investigate our trusted Velith allies. This matter is closed. Vethnor smiled with his wide mouth full of sharp teeth. Perhaps the humans should be more careful with their accusations in the future. False claims can damage relationships. Yunho said nothing. He simply looked at the council members around him. He memorized their faces. He noted who had voted against the investigation. He saw who was smiling now, pleased that the matter was finished. Then he did something no ambassador had ever done before in the history of the Galactic Council. He turned off his translation device. He removed his diplomatic badge, and he walked toward the exit. "Ambassador Park," Zelmoth called. "Where are you going? We have other matters to discuss." Yunho stopped at the door. He turned around one last time. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. But in the silent hall, everyone heard him clearly. Humanity came to this council seeking friendship and cooperation. We came in good faith. We believed in justice and fairness. We were wrong. He paused. The hall was completely silent now. 2 million of our people are dead. You had the evidence. You had the truth. And you chose to look away. You chose your political games over justice. You chose your Velith allies over innocent lives. Vethnor laughed. "Is this a threat, little human? What will you do? Your species is young and weak. You need the council far more than we need you." Yunho looked at the Velith commander for a long moment. Then he smiled sadly. "We asked for justice," he said. "We asked politely. We followed your rules and your procedures. And you showed us exactly what our lives are worth to you." He bowed slightly, a gesture of finality rather than respect. "Goodbye." He walked out of the great hall. The doors closed behind him. For a moment, the council members sat in confused silence. Then Vethnor laughed again, and others joined him. "Dramatic little creatures," the Makari ambassador clicked. "They will be back tomorrow, apologizing and begging for trade agreements." "Indeed," Zelmoth agreed, though she looked troubled. "Humans are emotional, but they are practical. They will calm down." Outside the Great Hall, Yunho walked through the long corridor toward the human embassy. His assistant, a young woman named Cho Eun-bi, was waiting for him. "Sir?" she asked. "What happened?" "They voted against investigation," Yunho said. "As we expected. What do we do now?" Yunho pulled out his personal communication device. He typed a single word and sent it to Earth. The word was, "Begin." "Now," he said to Eun-bi, "we show them what humanity does when diplomacy fails. Pack your things. We're going home." Behind them, the council continued its meeting, discussing trade routes and mining rights. They had already forgotten about New Haven. They had already forgotten about the 2 million dead. They would remember soon enough. The message from Ambassador Park Yunho reached Earth in seconds. It traveled through the quantum communication network that humans had built, passing through relay stations spread across dozens of star systems. By the time Yunho had finished packing his belongings, the entire human government had already read the single word he sent: "Begin." President Kang Soo-jin sat in her office in Seoul. She was 62 years old, with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen humanity grow from a single planet to a civilization of 40 worlds. She had hoped this day would never come. She had prayed for it, in her own quiet way. But she had also prepared for it. "You're certain about this?" her advisor asked. "Once we start, there's no going back." "They killed 2 million of our people," Soo-jin said. "And when we asked for justice, they laughed at us. What choice do we have?" She typed the authorization code. Across human space, orders went out to every ship, every station, every colony. Operation Silent Stars had begun. Captain Kim Ha-na received her orders aboard the HSS Resolve, a heavy cruiser stationed near the Velith border. She was 35 years old, with short black hair and a scar across her left cheek from a pirate raid 5 years ago. She had lost her younger brother on New Haven. "All hands," she announced over the ship's communication system. "We have received orders from Earth Command. We are to begin immediate evacuation of all human citizens from Council space. This is not a drill." Her crew moved quickly. They had trained for this scenario many times. Within minutes, the Resolve was moving at maximum speed toward the nearest human trading post. The trading post was on a station called Nexus 7, one of the largest commercial hubs in the galaxy. Thousands of species came here to buy and sell goods. Humans had maintained a presence here since joining the Council, selling medicine, technology, and food products. Ha-na's shuttle landed in the human district. She walked through streets filled with human shops and restaurants. Business owners were already packing their things. News traveled fast. "Captain Kim!" An older man ran toward her. His name was Baek Jin-soo, and he had run a medical supply shop here for 8 years. "Is it true? Are we really leaving?" "We're leaving," Ha-na confirmed. "All human citizens are ordered to return to human space immediately. Bring only what you can carry. Ships will depart every hour." Jin-soo looked at his shop. He had built it with his own hands. He had made friends here, customers of many species who came to him for human medicine that no one else could make. "What about my alien friends?" he asked. "Some of them depend on my medicine. They'll die without it." Ha-na's expression softened. "I'm sorry, those are the orders. We can't help them anymore. But they didn't vote against us. Regular people don't control what the Council does." "I know." Ha-na put her hand on his shoulder. "But we can't separate the Council from its people. They chose their leaders. They benefit from the system. And that system decided our lives don't matter." Jin-soo's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded. He went back to his shop to pack. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human doctors closed their clinics. Human engineers shut down their projects. Human teachers said goodbye to their students. Human traders ended their contracts. Within 3 days, there was not a single human left in Council space. The Council noticed, of course. They noticed when the humans didn't come back to apologize. They noticed when human shops closed and human ships departed. But they didn't understand what it meant. "Let them go," High Counselor Vethnor said during a council meeting. "Humans are emotional creatures. They will calm down in a few weeks and return. They need our resources too much to stay away." High Arbiter Zelmoth was not so certain. "We should send a diplomatic mission to Earth. Perhaps we can resolve this misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Vethnor laughed. "There is no misunderstanding. The humans made foolish accusations. We rejected them. Now they are throwing a tantrum. Children do this. 2 million of their people died," reminded Ambassador Talven of the Preoxy Collective. He was one of the few who had voted for the investigation. "That's not nothing. They have 40 worlds," Vethnor said. "They will make more people. Humans breed quickly." This comment made even some of Vethnor's allies uncomfortable, but no one challenged him. The Velith Empire was too powerful. Their trade agreements too valuable. 1 week passed. Then 2. The Council sent messages to the human government. The messages went unanswered. "This is strange," the Makari ambassador clicked. "Humans always respond to messages. They love talking." 3 weeks passed. A Koran trading ship approached the human border, expecting to deliver goods as usual. They were met by a human patrol vessel. "Attention, Koran vessel," the human captain announced. "Human space is now closed to all Council traffic. Turn around immediately." "But we have a delivery contract," the Koran captain protested. "We've been trading with your people for years. All contracts are cancelled. All agreements are ended. Human space is closed. This is your only warning." The Koran ship turned around. Its captain immediately reported the encounter to the Council. Now they began to worry. What do they mean, closed? Demanded the Thorian delegate. They can't close their borders. We have treaties. The treaties have been cancelled, explained a council legal expert. When Ambassador Park removed his diplomatic badge and walked out, it was a formal withdrawal from all diplomatic relations. They followed proper protocol. 2. But they can't just leave. The Makari ambassador's cliques were confused. No one leaves the council. No one. Actually, the legal expert continued nervously, several species have left over the millennia. It's rare, but there are procedures. The humans followed them exactly. High Arbiter Zelmoth floated in her gravity bubble, her body pulsing with worry. What does this mean for us? In practical terms, it means we can no longer trade with humans. We can no longer travel through their space. We can no longer access their technology or resources. That's not so bad, Vethnor said. We survived for thousands of years without humans. We'll survive without them now. But others weren't so confident. Ambassador Talven pulled up economic data on the main display. Humans have been in the council for only 12 years, he said. In that time, they have become integrated into nearly every major supply chain. Their medical technology saves millions of lives each year. Their food production feeds dozens of worlds. Their engineering maintains critical infrastructure across council space. So, Vethnor shrugged his four shoulders. Other species can do those things. Can they? Talven asked. Human medicine is unique because of their biological research. No one else has replicated it. Human food is unique because of their agricultural methods. Human engineering is unique because of their creativity. You exaggerate their importance. Do I? Talven pointed to another data chart. The Makari rely on human antibiotics for their medical systems. The Koran need human water purification technology for 3 of their colony worlds. The Thorians use human-designed reactors for 70% of their power generation, even the Velith. He paused and looked at Vethnor. Even the Velith buy human cybernetics for their military. The hall fell silent. They wouldn't really cut us off completely. The Makari ambassador clicked, but his voice was uncertain now. They wouldn't let innocent people suffer just because of politics. We let 2 million innocent humans die because of politics, Talven said quietly. Why would they treat us any differently? Captain Hana stood on the bridge of the Resolve, looking out at the border of human space. Behind her was everything humanity had built. 40 worlds, hundreds of stations, billions of people living their lives in peace. In front of her was the rest of the galaxy. A galaxy that had decided human lives didn't matter. All evacuation complete, her first officer reported. The last civilian ship has crossed the border, and the defensive grid, fully activated. Nothing gets in without our permission. Hana nodded. Good. Maintain position. We're not letting anyone through. How long do we stay here, Captain? Hana looked at the stars beyond the border. Somewhere out there. The council was probably still laughing at them. Still thinking humans were weak and emotional. Still believing they would come crawling back. As long as it takes, she said, until they understand. 2 months passed. At first, the council believed their own lies. Humans would return. Humans needed them. Humans were young and weak and could not survive alone in a dangerous galaxy. Then the shortages began. On the Makari homeworld, hospitals started running out of antibiotics. Human medicine had been the standard treatment for their most common infections for nearly a decade. Without it, diseases that had been easily cured suddenly became deadly again. We need emergency supplies, the Makari health minister announced. Contact the humans immediately. Contact the humans immediately. We have contacted them, her assistant replied nervously. They don't answer. Send ships to their border. We have. They turn our ships away. Every time. The minister stared at her screen, watching the numbers of sick Makari rise each day. Then find alternatives. Other species must have similar medicine. We've looked. No one does. Human biological research is unique. They found solutions to problems that our scientists didn't even know existed. How is that possible? They're so young. The assistant had no answer. On the Koran colony of Depth's End, the water purification systems failed. These systems had been designed by human engineers and built with human components. When they broke down, the Koran discovered that no one else understood how they worked. The entire planet's water supply is at risk, the colony governor reported to the Koran Council. We need human technicians to fix this. The humans won't come. High Arbiter Zelmoth replied sadly. We've tried everything. They won't even acknowledge our messages. Then 3 million Koran will die of thirst. Zelmoth's body pulsed with distress. I'm sending our best engineers. Maybe they can figure it out. They couldn't. Human technology was based on human thinking. And human thinking was strange. Their solutions were creative and unexpected, full of tricks and shortcuts that alien engineers couldn't understand. It wasn't that humans were smarter. They were just different. They saw problems from angles that no one else could imagine. The Thorian power grid was the next to fail. Human-designed reactors powered most of their civilization. When the first reactor broke down, they realized they had no spare parts. When the second broke down, they realized they didn't understand how the reactors worked. When the third broke down, they began to panic. This is ridiculous, the Thorian delegate shouted at the council meeting. We paid humans to build these reactors. They were supposed to last forever. Nothing lasts forever, Ambassador Talven said calmly. And the humans always provided maintenance services. Those services are now canceled, but we paid them, and they returned the money. Every credit. They don't want anything from us anymore. Across council space, the pattern repeated. Systems that depended on human technology began failing. Industries that relied on human supplies began closing. People who needed human medicine began dying, and through it all, the humans said nothing. Their borders remained sealed. Their communications remained silent. They had become ghosts. On Earth, President Kang Soo-jin watched the reports from council space. She saw the suffering. She saw the deaths. And she felt the weight of each one on her conscience. How many this week? She asked her intelligence chief. Approximately 12,000 Makari from disease outbreaks. Unknown numbers of Koran, on Depth's End. The Thorian power failures have caused several industrial accidents. Any response from the council? They've sent 97 diplomatic missions to our border in the last month. All were turned away. Soo-jin closed her eyes. This was hard. This was so hard. She was not a cruel person. She did not enjoy watching innocent people suffer for the crimes of their governments, but she remembered New Haven. She remembered 2 million dead humans. She remembered the council's laughter. Maintain the blockade, she said. Continue the silence. Yes, Madam President. But, the intelligence chief hesitated. What is it? Some of our people are questioning this strategy. They say innocent aliens are dying for something they didn't do, and innocent humans died for something they didn't do. Soo-jin's voice was hard now. The difference is, we asked for justice, and were refused. They can end their suffering anytime they want. All they have to do is deliver the people responsible for New Haven. The Velith will never agree to that. Then the silence continues. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, the mood had changed completely. Gone was the laughter and confidence from 2 months ago. Now the delegates argued and blamed each other for the crisis. This is your fault. The Makari ambassador clicked at Vethnor. You and your Velith attacked the humans, and now we all pay the price. We did nothing, Vethnor shouted. The humans' accusations were false. Were they? The evidence seemed very convincing to me. Then why did you vote against the investigation? The Makari fell silent. That was a good question. Why had he voted against it? He had watched the evidence. He had seen the proof, but he had still voted with the Velith, because the Velith were powerful allies, and he hadn't wanted to anger them. Now thousands of his people were dying from preventable diseases. We need to give the humans what they want, Ambassador Talvin suggested. They want justice for New Haven. Let's give it to them. You want us to sacrifice the Velith Empire? High Arbiter Zelmoth asked. I want us to investigate the truth. If the Velith are innocent, they have nothing to fear. If they're guilty, he looked at Vethnor, then they should face consequences. The Velith Empire will never accept this. Vethnor's scales turned dark red with fury. We are the most powerful military force in the Council. We will not be judged by lesser species. Then the humans will continue their silence, and more innocent people will die. Let them die. Eventually the humans will run out of patience. They'll need to trade. They'll need resources. They'll come back. Will they? Talvin asked. Everything we know about humans suggests otherwise. They're remarkably self-sufficient. Their 40 worlds have abundant resources. They can survive without us indefinitely. No species can survive alone. Humans did for thousands of years. They thought they were alone in the universe until we found them. They built their civilization without any help from us. They don't need us, Vethnor. We need them. This truth hung in the air like poison. For 3,000 years, the Velith had been the most powerful species in the Council. They were used to being feared and respected. They were used to getting what they wanted. Now a young species, barely 12 years in the galactic community, had brought the entire Council to its knees. Not with weapons, not with threats, simply by leaving. There must be something we can do, the Thorian delegate said desperately. Some way to make them talk to us. We could try apologizing, Talven suggested. Apologize? For what? For laughing when they asked for justice. For ignoring the deaths of 2 million people. For treating them like children when they trusted us with their friendship. That's absurd. We are ancient civilizations. We don't apologize to whom? To the species that holds the fate of millions of our citizens in their hands? To the species that has shown more dignity in 2 months of silence than we showed in 12 years of supposed friendship? No one had an answer. That night, Captain Hana received another ship at the border. This one was not a trading vessel or a diplomatic mission. It was small, unarmed, and carried only one passenger. I am Ambassador Talven of the Preoxy Collective, the passenger announced. I voted for the investigation. I want to help. Hana looked at the alien on her screen. He was small for his species, with gray skin and large eyes that seemed genuinely sad. What kind of help are you offering? She asked. Information. The Velith are not as clean as they pretend. There are records. Evidence of many crimes, not just New Haven. If humanity had this information, it might help your case. Why would you betray the Council? Talven was quiet for a moment. Because 2 months ago, I watched the Council choose politics over justice. I watched them protect murderers because it was convenient, and I realized that if this is what the Council has become, then maybe it deserves to fall. Hana considered this. Then she opened a communication channel to Earth. Madam President, she said, I think you need to hear this. Ambassador Talven's ship crossed into human space under heavy guard. 12 warships surrounded his small vessel, their weapons powered and ready. The humans were taking no chances. Captain Hana escorted him personally. She didn't trust him. No human trusted any alien anymore. But President Kang had ordered her to bring him to Earth. And she followed orders. Your ships are impressive, Talven said as they traveled. He was looking out the window at the human vessels flying alongside them. I didn't know humans had so many. We built them over the last 12 years, Hana replied coldly. Your council didn't pay much attention to what we were doing. No, we didn't. We thought we knew everything about your species. And what did you think you knew? Talven turned to look at her. His large eyes were filled with something that might have been shame. We thought you were soft, emotional, weak. We thought you would always need our guidance and protection. And now? Now I think we were the weak ones. We couldn't even stand up for what was right. Hana said nothing, but her expression softened slightly. Earth appeared on the view screen 3 days later. Talven stared at it with wonder. He had seen pictures, of course. Every species in the galaxy knew about the human homeworld, but seeing it in person was different. It's beautiful, he said. It's home, Hana replied. And we'll do anything to protect it. President Kang met Talven in a simple conference room. No grand halls, no thousands of spectators. Just a table, some chairs, and the two of them with a few advisors. Ambassador Talven, Sujin said, "You claim to have information that could help us." "I do." Talven placed a small device on the table. "This contains records from Velith military databases, communications, orders, financial transactions. It proves beyond any doubt that the attack on New Haven was ordered directly by High Counselor Vethnor himself. We already proved that. The Council didn't care. This is different. This proves that New Haven wasn't the first." Talven pressed a button on the device. Holographic displays filled the room. "The Velith have been conducting secret attacks on developing species for centuries," he explained. "They target colonies and outposts, destroy them completely, and then blame it on pirates or natural disasters. They do this to keep younger species weak and dependent on Council protection." Sujin studied the records. Her face grew pale as she read. "There are dozens of attacks here," she said. "Thousands of victims across many species. The Council leadership knows about this," Talven admitted. "Not everyone, but enough. They allow it because the Velith are powerful and useful. As long as the victims are lesser species, no one cares." "Why are you showing us this?" Talven looked at the human president with tired eyes. "Because I'm ashamed. I've known about this for years. I said nothing because I was afraid. When New Haven happened, I told myself it wasn't my problem. I voted for the investigation to ease my guilt, but I knew it would fail." He paused and took a deep breath. "Then I watched your ambassador walk out of that hall. I watched him refuse to beg or threaten. He simply left. And I realized that humans had more courage in that one moment than I had shown in my entire career." "Courage or foolishness," Sujin said. "Some would say, we're punishing innocent people for the crimes of their governments. Innocent people die in every conflict. The question is whether the cause is just." Talven gestured at the records. "The Council has been protecting murderers for centuries. Someone had to stop them. If you can use this information to force change, then maybe some good can come from all this suffering." Sujin looked at her advisors. They nodded. "Thank you, Ambassador," she said. "We'll use this." 1 week later, General Choi Tae-sung arrived at the human border in the most powerful warship humanity had ever built. The HSS Vengeance was 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, and surrounded by a fleet of 100 smaller vessels. Waiting on the Council side of the border was a delegation of the most powerful species in the galaxy. High Arbiter Zelmoth herself had come, along with representatives from every major civilization. Even High Counselor Vethnor was there, though he had argued against the meeting. The two groups faced each other across the invisible line that marked the edge of human space. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Zelmoth began. "We hope this is the first step toward restoring diplomatic relations." General Tae-sung was 58 years old, with a lined face and gray hair cut short in military style. He had served humanity for 35 years. He had lost friends on New Haven. "We're not here to restore anything," he said. "We're here to deliver something." He transmitted a massive data file to the Council ships. Zelmoth's body pulsed with confusion as she began reading. "What is this?" "Evidence. Records from Velith military databases proving that the attack on New Haven was ordered by High Counselor Vethnor. Records showing that the Velith have been conducting similar attacks for centuries. Records showing that Council leadership knew and did nothing." The holographic displays appeared in every Council ship. Delegates from dozens of species began reading. And as they read, their expressions changed. "This is impossible," Vethnor shouted. "These records are fake. The humans created them too." "The records include authentication codes from your own military network," Tae-sung interrupted. "Your own security systems verify that they're genuine. Would you like to explain to your allies why you've been secretly attacking their colonies for 300 years? Vethnor fell silent. The other delegates were not silent. They shouted and screamed as they discovered attacks on their own people that they had never known about. The Makari found records of 3 colony ships that had been destroyed and blamed on asteroid impacts. The Thorians discovered that a plague that had killed millions was actually a Velith bioweapon. Even species that had been Velith allies found evidence of betrayal. You. The Makari ambassador pointed at Vethnor with shaking limbs. You killed my brother's family. They were on the Starlight Hope. You told us it was an accident. The Thorian plague was your doing? The Thorian delegate's voice was barely a whisper. 18 million dead. 18 million. These are lies, Vethnor screamed. Human propaganda. You can't believe. The authentication codes are real. A Velith technician reported quietly. He had checked them himself. He looked sick. These records are genuine. The Great Hall of Council Space, represented here by these ships, erupted into chaos. Species that had been allies for millennia turned on each other. Ancient friendships shattered in moments as the truth spread through the data networks. And through it all, General Taesung stood calmly on his bridge, watching. General, his first officer asked, should we do something? They might start shooting at each other. Let them. They've been living a lie for centuries. Learning the truth is painful. Quote, and then what? Taesung looked at the burning remains of what had once been galactic civilization's most stable alliance. And then they'll have a choice. Continue protecting murderers, or start building something better. He turned his ship around. General Choi. Zelmoth's voice came through the communication system. Wait. We need to talk. We need to. Taesung cut the channel. We've said everything we needed to say, he told his crew. Now they need to decide who they want to be. Until they figure that out, we have nothing to discuss. The human fleet disappeared back into their space. Behind them, the council burned with anger and shame. For the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy's oldest civilizations had to look honestly at themselves. Many didn't like what they saw. 6 months had passed since General Taesung delivered the truth to the galaxy. In that time, everything had changed. The Velith Empire had collapsed. Not from war or invasion, but from shame. When their own citizens learned what their government had done, they revolted. High Counselor Vethnor was arrested by his own military. Dozens of other officials were arrested with him. The council itself had nearly fallen apart. Species that had trusted each other for millennia now looked at their neighbors with suspicion. How many other secrets were hidden in those ancient archives? How many other crimes had been covered up in the name of political convenience? But slowly, painfully, something new was emerging from the chaos. High Arbiter Selmoth had resigned in disgrace. In her place, the council had elected Ambassador Talven. It was a controversial choice. The Preoxy were not a powerful species. They had no great military or vast territory, but they had something more valuable now, a reputation for honesty. Talven's first act as High Arbiter was to establish a new policy of transparency. All government records would be made public. All military actions would be reported truthfully. All crimes would be investigated, no matter who was responsible. His second act was to request a meeting with humanity. President Kang Soo-jin considered the request for 3 days before responding. Many of her advisors urged her to refuse. The humans had won. They had proven their point. Why risk their safety by reopening diplomatic relations? But Soo-jin remembered something her grandmother had told her long ago. Revenge is a fire that burns the one who holds it. We didn't do this for revenge, she told her cabinet. We did it for justice. And justice means giving people a chance to change. She accepted the meeting. The location was carefully chosen. A space station in neutral territory, far from both human space and council territory. Both sides brought only minimal security. This was supposed to be a new beginning, not a show of force. Ambassador Park Yun-ho returned for this meeting. He had spent the last 6 months on Earth, helping to coordinate the embargo and advising the government on galactic politics. Now he stood in the same room with the species that had laughed at him. They weren't laughing anymore. Ambassador Park, Talven said. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer our deepest apologies for what happened to New Haven. We failed you. We failed the 2 million people who died. We failed our own principles of justice and fairness. Yun-ho nodded slowly. Your apology is appreciated. But apologies don't bring back the dead. No, they don't. That's why we're prepared to offer more than words. Talven gestured, and holographic displays appeared showing a series of documents. First, the individuals responsible for the New Haven attack will face trial before an international court. This includes Vethnor and 17 other Velith officials. If found guilty, they will serve their sentences in human custody. Yunho studied the documents. That's acceptable. Second, the families of New Haven's victims will receive compensation from the Velith treasury. It cannot replace what was lost, but it is a gesture of acknowledgement. Also acceptable. Third, we are proposing fundamental reforms to the council structure. No more secret votes. No more protecting powerful allies from consequences. Every species will be equal under the law, regardless of their age or military strength. These are good proposals, Yunho said. But why should we believe you'll actually follow through? Talven smiled sadly. Because we have no choice. You've shown us what happens when we don't. But more than that. He paused, seeming to search for the right words. You've shown us what we could be. When you walked out of that hall, you didn't threaten us. You didn't attack us. You simply stopped participating in a system that was unjust. And your silence spoke louder than any weapon. Many innocent people suffered because of our silence. Yes, and many more would have suffered if the system had continued unchanged. Sometimes there are no good choices, only less bad ones. Yunho looked at the council representatives around the room. He saw species that had once dismissed humanity as children. He saw species that had laughed at their pain. He saw species that had chosen political convenience over justice. But he also saw something new in their eyes. Fear. Yes. But also respect. And perhaps, in some of them, hope. My government has authorized me to negotiate terms for humanity's return to galactic society, Yunho said finally. But we have conditions. Name them. First, the reforms you mentioned must be implemented before we return. Not promised. Implemented. Agreed. Second, humanity will have a permanent seat on the Council's Security Committee, with full veto power over military actions. Talven hesitated. This was a significant concession. No young species had ever held such power. But he nodded. Agreed. Third, the Council will establish a memorial on New Haven. The names of every victim will be recorded there, so the galaxy never forgets what happened. Agreed. And may I suggest that the memorial also include records of all the other attacks we covered up? Your species was not the only one to suffer from our cowardice. Yunho was surprised by this offer. That would be appropriate. The negotiations continued for several hours. When they finally concluded, both sides had agreed to terms that would reshape galactic civilization. Humanity would return to the Council, but not as junior members seeking acceptance. They would return as equals, with the power to ensure that what happened to New Haven would never happen again. As the delegates prepared to leave, Talven approached Yunho privately. May I ask you something personal? Yunho nodded. When you walked out of that hall 6 months ago, were you afraid? Did you know what would happen? Yunho thought about the question. He remembered standing before the council, watching them dismiss the evidence, watching them protect the murderers of his people. He remembered the cold anger that had filled his heart. I wasn't afraid, he said. I was sad. Sad that beings we had hoped would be our friends turned out to be so ordinary, so willing to ignore evil when it was convenient. And now? Are you still sad? Yunho looked at the alien who had risked everything to help humanity. He thought about the changes that were coming, the new galaxy that was being born from the ashes of the old. Now I'm hopeful, he said. You proved that not everyone in the galaxy had lost their conscience. And if one person can stand up for what's right, others can too. 1 year later, Ambassador Park Yunho returned to the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. He walked across the same central platform where he had once stood alone, presenting evidence that no one wanted to believe. This time, when he reached the podium, the council rose to greet him. not with boredom or contempt, but with respect. Honored members of the Galactic Council, he began. 1 year ago, I stood in this hall and asked for justice. I was refused. Today, I stand here again, not to ask for anything, but to offer something. He paused, looking around at the thousands of delegates watching him. Humanity offers friendship, not the kind of friendship that ignores crimes, not the kind that protects allies from consequences. Real friendship. The kind that holds each other accountable. The kind that tells hard truths. The kind that stands together against injustice, even when it's difficult. He smiled, and for the first time in a year, it reached his eyes. We closed every diplomatic door because the old system was broken. But doors can be opened again. Today, we open a new door. A door to a better galaxy. A galaxy where every life matters, regardless of species. A galaxy where truth is valued more than convenience. He raised his hand in the traditional human gesture of greeting. Let's build that galaxy together. In the Great Hall, the council members looked at each other. They remembered the months of suffering. They remembered the hard truths they had learned about themselves. They remembered the fear of watching humanity turn its back on them. But they also remembered why it had happened. And they understood, finally, that the humans had done them a favor. They had forced the galaxy to face its own failures. High Arbiter Talven rose from his seat. He returned the human gesture, his gray hand raised in mirror of Yunho's. Together, he agreed. And across the Great Hall, one by one, the representatives of 1,000 species raised their hands. Tentacles and claws and fins and things that had no name in any human language, all pointed toward the sky. Together, the doors were open again. This time, they would do better.